Hello and welcome to SHOWstudio's live panel discussions. Now, in these discussions, experts from all parts of the industry are discussing and debating some of the most important Fashion Week shows of the season. So today, bang in the midst of London Fashion Week, we are here discussing Christopher Kane. Now, just to kind of put this into a bit of perspective, Christopher Kane, aka the Scottish supernova, that's Sarah Moa's line, not mine sadly, is one of the consistently most lauded darlings of the British fashion scene, thanks to his penchant for subversive femininity, intelligent sex appeal, done differently, slightly wrong, also so right, and to that point, quite often challenging definitions of taste. He's an exciting designer, conceptual and wearable, so we're going to have a lot to talk about today. And I've got a fabulous panel to do that with. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Sona, do you want to speak?
Hi guys, I'm Sona Singh and I am a fine artist as well as a creative director.
Hi, I'm Elliott. I'm a creative director, curator and stylist.
Hi, I'm Katie Ruensumran. I'm creative consultant and freelance writer.
I'm Betsy Johnson. I'm a director, stylist and photographer.
Cool. So today we've only seen really sort of very brief snippets of the show so far. So I'd love to kick off by talking about, you know, what it is about Christopher Kane that's brought us all here today, what we're expecting from the show, what we're really hoping for above all else from this show. I don't know who wants to start.
I actually expecting lots of sex, lots of leather, lots of plastic, like, you know, like liquid things that inside the plastic, and lots of knit and the print. Yeah. I
guess I came because season after season, Chris nearly always reinvents what he's done. There's always similar themes, but it's that there's a freshness that he brings as well. And so where other designers get a little bit staid, there's always a little bit of excitement that he brings.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm expecting to see a bit more drama, a bit more. I don't know.
Do you mean because we're at that point in London Fashion Week that you're hoping that he's the man to bring the drama?
It's that, you know, we're on like day 3? Day 3 of London Fashion Week. Yeah. People have been going to shows all weekend. You know, it's constantly been people shooting down a runway. So something a bit more than just necks turning from left to right, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So you're expecting a real showstopper of a show from him?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm expecting drama. I don't know if I'm going to get it. I want drama because I feel like it's kind of, I feel like Christopher's very predictable. I feel like collection on collection, I'm kind of like, okay, like I'm seeing lace, I'm seeing leather, I'm seeing, you know, playing around to some extent with the female shape, but nothing that really blows me out of the water. I'm hoping it's going to be something that's slightly more, going to get my pulse racing a little bit, whether that's going to happen. I haven't looked at it yet, so.
So do you think you're expecting too much then, if you don't normally see it from him?
Yeah, I think as well, like I just came out of New York and then London and no one's really done anything for me. Like I feel like especially like men's fashion week is such a showstopper now. Like you have Charles, we have art school, we have so much going on in the men's fashion scene that it's just kind of like women's is so falling flat, and I want to feel something more.
Do you think
that's totally different? Because I think he's brought a lot of signature and archive, and that is the point of his design, you know, because he stick on what he's doing best, and then, you know, he kind of like, he's not, of course, yeah, he's not exploring something new, but he know what he wants. He know what his client wants, and then, you know, like his client is a modern woman, which is, yeah, like, I think this is the
it's very interesting, isn't it, that I think when a lot of designers arguably were kind of shying away from doing things that were talking about sex appeal or focusing on sex, particularly because you had the kind of hypersensitivity of the Me Too era, it was really interesting that last season he came out and did something that was, I think it was the Sex and Nature one, wasn't it, last season?
Yeah, it was 2 seasons ago, yeah.
Deliberately kind of talking about that. And of course, he's got his sister Tammy, which maybe he works with, which maybe makes it kind of more permissible. Is that kind of sort of discussion about sort of sex something that we really need in fashion at the moment? To kind
I feel in terms of fashion and the creative industry just in general, sex is something which it's never something that should be brushed under the rug, if that makes sense, especially because we're in that era of, you know, like sexual freedom and people very, very openly exploring their sexuality and stuff like that. So I feel like why should fashion be one of those industries in which it should kind of just sink away? I feel like it's as important as everything else within fashion.
Agreed, but do you not think sometimes it's just a bit obvious? Because it's fine to say that we're having that discussion, but these are the kind of things that we've been seeing year in, year out, and to say that we're not having those discussions would almost be like we're missing the point, because so many designers are going down that route of talking about sex, whether gender fluidity or what, or in any which way. So I think it's good that he puts that into his collections, but sometimes it's like, are you just trying to like paint by numbers, but actually then just drawing it on the tin as well?
I don't know how genuine it is though, because it's like, you know, all of a sudden everyone wants to talk about sex, and then the only place he's talking about sex is on like t-shirts. It's on his accessible pieces. So it's like, are you just trying to be like, okay, like cash cow, like on our t-shirts, you know, that are probably going to retail for maybe £200 maximum. Like, let's put like something from a sex book on there and like be inspired by Berlin and all that.
T-shirts.
Yeah, exactly. Like, let's just like throw that on a t-shirt, because like, you know, like the young like 18 to 28-year-old, like they're going to buy our accessible pieces. Let's put like a motif on it that's like, you know, looks a bit underground. Like, I mean, I don't know whether it's kind of edging more into that direction.
I mean, there's definitely a commerciality behind all of it. Like everything, I mean, you can see it with any designer, there's always those commercial pieces, and I feel like that's very much one of his selling points, period. So, I mean, it's interesting to see. I want to see where he's kind of gone with this collection, and if it holds the same precedent as what the rest has.
But I mean, he's also been, you know, admittedly quite brave with materials at times, hasn't he? In terms of, you know, if we're talking about sex, I mean, using some of these, you know, combining, you know, material sort of shapes that look quite demure, but then with leather or sort of plasticization or, you know, some kind of trim. I don't know what you think about that, Katie.
I always like Christopher Kane. He always used some expecting fabric or expecting material, like on the clothes, which is, you know, like sometimes I don't know what to say, but he makes some, but it's not cheap stuff, but something that you unexpected to be on the clothes, you know, like plastic or even like embellished, but in an unusual way. Which is it's very interesting for me. So yeah,
it's kind of elevating things that are tacky.
Yeah, tacky thing, but make it more expensive and luxury, which is very difficult. You know, like but he did well. Yeah.
I mean, taste is definitely an issue, isn't it? And I think because we're talking about drama and that we want to see drama, he is definitely a designer that's challenged notions of good taste.
Yeah, for the sex thing as well, I think he kind of like taking a piss, but in a good way. I mean, of course, but you know, he put like the wedding things and, like you say, tacky, but you know, like in the funny way, which is
tacky but tasteful.
Yeah, but tasteful, which is it's fashion. What we want, what do we want? We want something fun, or we want something too serious? I think this is.
Do you think in the kind of world of the big conglomerates?
Yeah.
I mean, it's notable. I mention that because, of course, Christopher Kane, you know, only last year bought back his share from the Kering group, which is a humongous group, which has, you know, they're now focusing on Gucci's and Balenciaga and this sort of big fashion behemoths. You know, are we hoping that Christopher Kane's going to kind of perhaps find his feet now and get back to being that kind of edgy, rule-breaking designer that maybe we feel has sort of regressed a little bit? I don't know.
I think technically, like, the way he works with fabric, it's like wrath and colour. Like, you know, I hate lace. I think it can look so high street, and I think the way he works with lace, there's not many designers that can make it look so high-end the way he does, the way he cuts it, the way he mixes it with other fabrics. It's so technically incredible. Like, you can tell that. You can tell he's had this massive commercial moment of his brand and his career that has elevated him to, you know, stand next to technically someone like Gucci and someone like Louis Vuitton and be able to technically and fabrically like be at that level. But now he's bought his shares back. I kind of want the drama, but you know, maybe he's scared.
I mean, there's always something about his collections which I like. Any of them I can pull from, but I don't know, the lace for me personally.
Go for it.
It's just
Don't hold back.
It's a bit like, you know, you're playing dress up with your grandma's curtains, and you know, like, okay, you splashed a bit of colour on these laces, and you changed the colour of lace. Lace predominantly, you know, you use it on a wedding dress or
screaming.
You know, but I don't know. Like, I think there's a lot more. There's other pieces within his collection which are so much more.
Sophisticated
and impactful, which doesn't involve the whole lace and the leather type of thing. Don't get me wrong.
That is the point, because you know, like, he used the lace, which just came from the grandma with the curtain, or you know, like.
I don't know if I would say if it was used well or not.
Or he used like.
That's a personal opinion.
He used like, you know, like the knit things from like.
Crochet.
The crochet things. Like to the dress, informed to the dress, which is kind of like,
when he adds the sleeves,
someone who works with those type of fabrics, and I understand like the creation of lace and how you can manipulate leather and all of these things, and I feel like there's just a little bit more that he could do with it. For example, like you could have some leather which you get laser cut into to make it look like lace. Do you know what I mean? Like manipulate your fabrics and just push it that bit extra. And I don't know if I've seen that yet from him, which.
But he has used laser cutting techniques in the past in some of the earlier collections, and.
But then it's just like bringing that back out, because I feel like it's kind of plateaued a little bit for me. Like, don't get me wrong. I like, for example, can we pull up his spring summer 2017, for example? So all of this kind of like. This embellishment and all of this layering and stuff like that. This I find so exciting, and I feel like I haven't seen. Everything's become a lot more clean and a lot more flat. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas.
But do you think that's because he knows who his consumer is, and there's that point where we might, in London, be looking for drama because we do really well off of column inches to make things look fantastical, but there's a business that needs to be run, and that quite often in London it's just a bit of a playground, and we play around with fashion. We've seen so many designers come through, get tons of column inches season after season, and then 3 years in, they're gone. There's so many designers you could like name, they were going to be the next big thing because they wow everyone and everyone's like whooping, but have they got any business acumen, and can they make something that actually sells, that women actually want when we're talking about womenswear?
Yeah, because behind every big label, even like the people that are doing the most crazy stuff, like even like Vivienne Westwood, like I'm pretty sure she's making most of her money through accessories sales.
Totally.
And through her accessible pieces.
The shoes and bags, that's where she makes her money. Same like most of the brands, it's like the accessories which pay for them to kind of create the rest of the stuff that they do, or the perfumes.
And I kind of prefer that, even though it's like kind of a cheat. I prefer that, like, give me drama, make me excited about you, and then I'll just buy a purse. Like, enjoy the show. Like,
do you know what? I have to agree with it. I slightly do have to agree with it, because, like, I feel like runways as well, just from the last couple of seasons, everything's a bit boring. Not the runways themselves, but everything's the same. You're going to go to a show, you know what's happening, you're going to sit on the bench, they're going to play the music, people are going to walk down, you're going to look to the left, you're going to look to the right, and then boom, it's done. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want something a bit more. It doesn't have to be
but you can go to the theatre if you want a bit more.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's just.
Do you want more showmanship?
Yeah,
So more.
Do you know what I think?
Show,
this is a really interesting question about the role of the fashion show, because I think we are in a place, and when we were talking before about this, about accessories will make a lot of money, and you know, maybe there's nothing wrong in that, and actually there's something really valid in sort of grooming, for want of a better word, your future consumers, allowing
you need to make money. That's it. Yeah.
Wow.
Probably, maybe we can edit that out, that terminology. But that idea that actually you have your show that is one thing, and actually they can sit in a separate place. You know, you have a billion places online with your e-commerce site, and actually, you know, he's done very well arguably with that with Caring. Christopher Kane didn't really have an e-commerce site. He didn't have that kind of the backing, the sort of commercial backing in terms of the visual equity and the brand strategy before Caring. So you can put those other things, the more commercial things, in one place, in one bucket, if you like, and then have the show as something that's this standout space for absolute inspiration. I mean, a little bit in the same way that, you know, brands will make a lot of money if they have you know, they open an amazing flagship store, they'll make a lot of money with sales online, and the online might look quite boring, but it's because the store is like a place that you make a pilgrimage to. Yeah. Do you guys think, I mean, Harris, this is interesting for you as someone, I think, you know, particularly you're a visual storyteller and you've curated exhibitions, you've styled, you know, everything. the role of the fashion show, what do you think it should be there for now?
I think the show from day one, as these guys have been saying as well, it definitely needs to excite. You spend time queuing, turning up to go somewhere. You want to be wowed now more than ever because we can see so much online directly really, really quickly. So for me, the role of the show should be able to transport you. That's your shop window for 15, 20 minutes. So whether it's the likes of when designers like Robert Kerry Williams used to have horses coming down his catwalk show, or McQueen, with like the water that he did with Simon Costin. There's all of these shows where you would go and you would just be in awe and wow. And obviously, I'm a bit older, so it was pre-digital technology. But you would make a pilgrimage and you would fight and hide and steal and lie to get into those shows just to be able to get that experience.
And that would live with you for a long time after.
Well, yeah, you're still remembering those shows now. And some of them, even that if you didn't get to go to, you were still wowed by the spectacle of what was created then. So I think what's been lost where we try to push some ready to buy straight off the catwalk and everything, because as consumers we want everything straight away. Some of that drama is lost. So when, say, Tom Ford a few years ago said no photographs at his shows, I think that's quite good, because for me the show needs to be that special moment, because if your show's not special and the show's the same as your Instagram feed, then almost what is the point? Do you just create a collection that's ready just to buy and you actually don't need to do a show?
So kind of reintroducing a sort of radical intimacy, if you like.
Yeah, definitely.
There's like a level of exclusivity to it as well. I feel like, it's silly to say, but your show should be exclusive. It should have that set amount of people that you invite to, and they should start the conversation about your show. It shouldn't be the way that you portray it on the media. It shouldn't be the way that you put it out there. It should be the way that they put it out there.
Because, of course, there can be a filter down as well. You can put elements of that in different places online, on your social and on your e-commerce. So it's not like you're saying it's one or the other. Yeah, it's about different levels of it.
Your clothes should be able to spark a discussion. And if, like, I don't know, like someone needs to start the conversation, but then if there's like 50 people who are starting the conversation, it all gets a bit confused, do you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I don't know.
I think the show's there to just build a world. Like, I want to be transported, and even if it's like, you know, like we need this commercial element, like the clothes aren't gonna blow me away on their own. Like, why is your casting not more interesting? Why is your set not more interesting? One of like my favorite shows I ever was physically there to see was Art School at Fashion East about 4 seasons ago. I literally cried. I've never cried at a fashion show. I mean, I'm a Pisces, but whatever. And I was literally sat there crying.
Drama school.
And, you know, did you go to that show? Yeah, I cried just when, like, I think it was Eden, like, crawled.
The approach is different,
catwalk.
you know, like this is more like focusing on the clothes, but the Art School is the clothes and the show together, because you know, like,
this is the world it should be.
They you know, graduate from the drama school and then they want to express the other thing apart from the clothes. But this is, you know, not all the time, but you know, I prefer the show to be like clean and sophisticated and, you know, focus on the music, the venue, and the clothes. You know, like
you like it like that.
But not like so simple. Of course, because you know, like you have to repeat seeing the show again and again. But you know, like the McQueen show, like from the past, I prefer to leave it to the past. You know, I like it to see something new. Like, of course, like.
But that's the problem. There's nothing new.
Yeah, but.
In terms of the production of show, I personally haven't seen anything new. Whereas you're saying you want to leave the past in the past, and what they've done is incredible, and it's something that should be looked at, but not looked to for inspiration.
But maybe not new, but fresh, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, as we're talking about leaving the past in the past, it's probably about time that we actually looked at the new show. Okay, so these are the first looks that we're seeing now.
This is very Virgil Abloh, his first collection for Louis Vuitton. You know, the Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Dorothy coats.
It's a little bit Richard Quinn Moncler as well.
A bit Erdem, maybe?
Tiny bit.
A bit of everything.
Bit Paco Rabanne.
You've got the eyelets there, which are obviously a real signature for him.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's interesting with those first looks. When I first saw this just before we came on air, it's interesting. It's a bit like when he uses gingham and things like that he uses these almost quite sort of pastoral, sort of, or like borderline suburban. I mean, I think that's one of the things that's quite interesting about him. But when he subverts it, that there's an interesting kind of suburban Britishness, which is, you know, it's a very British thing, isn't it? That sort of.
Can we go back up quickly? See the look right on the right-hand side, down a little bit. Just down one more. Yep, stop. So this look right here on the right-hand side with the motorbike jacket and the cowboy boots. This look, I love. The casting's correct. Like, I think this is where I'm like, yeah, I want to see more of that. And then I look to the next door. I'm like,
next door.
You're not.
What is happening?
It's like, it's your cousins at most. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not. There's no cohesiveness for me.
Do you think the middle shot is because he's trying to kind of get on a streetwear tip, perhaps?
I just don't get it. What is this, a jumper? Like,
also, is that a skirt? Are they shorts with a slit in it? Like, is there a dress underneath that jumper?
See, I disagree, because for me, the look on the right is the most commercial look that's there. So the leather biker jacket and the cap. For me, I'm so bored of seeing cowboy boots and cowboy hats, which we've seen editorial for the past year and a half. And admittedly, we see this stuff a lot more than it hits the high street. But I don't need to see another pair of cowboy boots, and I'm not dissing this, but sorry, for me, that look feels quite commercial.
Can we just rewind to when you said, like, the casting? Because I think casting is a really interesting thing to talk about at the moment. Absolutely. What is it about that you think, that casting, that really works, that particular girl? That look?
I personally find that look quite sexy, and it's in terms of referring to his kind of like sex appeal and his references to femininity, because that's not the most feminine woman, and that styling is not the most feminine at all. In fact, I don't even like women. That is not my preference, but nonetheless, I can appreciate.
Can you quantify that statement?
So, no, women, like me as a young gay man, I can look at that and say, yeah, I find that sexy. Like, I'm attracted to that look, you know, and yeah.
Okay.
Not that I don't like. I love women. I think.
I
think they are.
Yeah, we don't need to unpick that.
Wow.
You know, that's okay. But the shot in the middle, I mean, I suppose it does reference a lot of the prints that he's done, even going back to his Topshop collection in, like, I don't know, 2009 or something like that.
Like space and...
That slightly kind of kitschy thing that he likes to do, where like it's a little bit, you know, it's kind of science fiction, but it's the more Flash Gordon version of science fiction.
See, I was 11 when that collection came out.
Yeah.
And
oh my God.
Yeah,
You're a baby.
Yeah, it drove me wild. I was like, yeah, let's go get it.
Out of here.
No.
Hate the print on the jumper, love the print on the dress.
See, I'm the reverse.
Yeah,
180.
I love the print on the dress. I agree.
No, I have to agree with her. I prefer it on the jumper.
It's like a cheap vinyl thing, and I'm like on the jumper, and I know you're going to be able to like wipe it. You know what I mean? It's going to be that kind of print on the jumper.
Are you sure? It might be knitted into
You
it.
know what I mean? When you'd be like,
Do you like those bibs that you'd have as a
Yeah.
kid? In case you dropped the
No,
flip down
it's
the
that.
front. Okay.
But I mean, yeah, no, I do prefer it on the jumper though. I feel like it's a lot more interesting when you have something on knitwear, whereas you know you can print onto fabric. Whereas if you're knitting something into a garment and you're creating that pattern through knitwear, it's just a lot more complex. There's a lot more texture to it. So yeah, I'd have to say I prefer it on the jumper.
love this look on the left. I love a blazer though.
I love the middle look. What's the show called? What's the theme of the show?
I don't know. Do we know what the show's called? I probably have this in my notes somewhere.
Because then that might actually help
It might unlock a few
inform kind of. So then,
Can anyone shout out the show name? Because the last show was Sex in Nature, wasn't it? I think. More Sex in Nature. Not quite as much Sex in Nature.
Clearly been inspired by those patch of daffodils and lilies, but I love the print that he's got. Very much camo.
The landscape.
Yeah, the landscape and like the camo. Yeah, for me, I'm very much
because he's always playing with the floral anyway. You know, floral, lace, neon color.
We haven't seen much lace though, actually. Funny enough.
You scroll down.
Especially as it's spring summer.
There's
I think this dress in the middle is absolutely
He's bringing back the neon lace from...
Yeah, I do quite like that as well.
See, I think the interesting thing about the dress in the middle is it's got that, when he's at his best, where you've got that slightly kind of little bit puritanical, but a bit perverse at the same time, where you've got this kind of almost like Victoriana buttoned-up look, and then a lot of flesh. So again, it's a little bit like, if you look at like a stylist like Katie Shillingford, I like that her work has that same kind of, it's almost borderline wrong, but it's so right, you know, it's like, it's quite, and I think that's a very, very difficult thing to do. I mean, like you saying, Betsy, before, that, you know, it's like when you use a lot of lace, it can actually look really cheap, and not kind of, you know, couture and witty cheap, it's just plain old cheap.
Oh my God, I love that.
I think I just love this print as well, because I love this look on the left again. I think it's amazing. I think it's a clever way to like use something that's not quite floral, but still floral and is relevant for a spring-summer collection. It's still got this like, I don't know, it's different. I've not seen a print.
Is it a paisley type print? Can we zoom in on the print?
Can we see it close up, like?
If that's
I
possible.
think it's like, yeah, like paisley, but like
Paisley, yeah.
textured.
Okay.
Or is it embroidered?
Embroidered.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice.
I love the paisley.
I feel like it's embroidered for some reason. It looks a lot more embroidered than a print.
I really hate paisley, but I love that.
Flat.
Yeah, that is a very rigid fabric as well. So, yeah.
So how cohesive do we feel this collection is so far? Like, do we get a sense of a mood, a woman, you know, how are we feeling it's going?
We get a sense of humor.
The introduction, of this new look on the left-hand side, is that leather or is it plastic? I'm not quite sure.
I think the mauve purpley bit looks like a plastic embellishment.
Yeah, I think it's leather,
it could be a patent
cut
leather.
out, and then, you know, like they put the plastic.
Could we zoom in on that one? The orange one on the left, please.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we know the name of the collection yet?
Okay, I think
Oh, because is it transparent? Because it must, there's PVC. Because where it goes over the bust.
This is interesting. It's taken a little bit more sci-fi. Yeah, can we find out the name of that show? I feel like it would piece together some.
Yeah, it's almost a little bit kind of Paco Rabanne.
Very much so.
I think the dress in the middle is kind of amazing for that as well.
Because I can't tell whether he's like his story is like, you know, like the modern woman, like it's not just like there's one single archetypal modern woman anymore. There's like all different types of modern women and they dress totally differently. So I don't know if that's the story he's telling. Like there's so many pieces in here that literally anyone can tap into and access. But, or is it more of like, I've got to make some money, need to make sure everyone can find something, what's going on?
No,
It'd be interesting to know the name.
I think he always needs to know that he needs to make money, as do all of them. I just think that making money is not a dirty thing either. I think it's a great thing to be able to.
Do you know what? If you're doing something well, you see it sell, that's fine. Produce it in 4 more colours and put it out there. Literally, if you know it's going to work, keep it working. Do you know?
That's what's going to keep your shit going.
I'm also not sure there's any point in designing something if you don't want to see a few people wearing it.
Yeah.
I think
there is a relevancy to having like a few pieces in a show that build your world and like add something to the story that you're trying to tell about your brand, about this particular collection, about your customer. I think it's important to have those pieces that maybe you're not even going to put into production. Like they're just there to add something to the story and like build this sort of like little world that you're like letting people come into. I think that's really important actually to have that element. But I haven't really seen anything that doesn't have some sort of commercial value yet.
So you don't think there's any pieces that he's put in which are just show pieces so far?
I don't know, because maybe he's going to just see what the buyers want and then just like...
No, because I agree with you that when you're doing a show, from back to that conversation about a show being a show, that's whether it's the set styling, it's the casting, but then there's also those show pieces that are clearly never going to make it to the stores, or you might just make 1 or 2, but those are the pieces which...
Or they'll be more like red carpet or...
Yeah, or those will be on the cover of Numero or Vogue or wherever, and that's what...
Yeah.
I think all of it will be on a line sheet, whether all of it will go into production or not. I mean, look at, Henry Holland's show, I feel like he barely puts anything into production. Every time I've gone into Henry's e-commerce stuff and even like his stockists, I don't see a lot of what he shows actually go into production.
Yeah.
Because is that
the design is different.
Yeah, that's a brand that's more about wow factor and knock it out, like stack that paper,
Everything
because
that
we know
I've
that we
seen
need to...
so far from here though, I look at it and I can definitely see it going into the store, and like it's referring back to what you said, there is no showstoppers. No,
I didn't say there wasn't. I was asking Betsy if she didn't think they were, because I think the collection, certain pieces in the collection are really strong.
I think they're all strong, but I think that there's none of the pieces which you're just going to exclusively see on the runway. I feel like they could definitely all...
Yeah, that's what I mean. They all have a commercial
element.
Quite easily.
I think some of
the accessories of seeing him do similar things in the past, so where he's used the
like his archive,
the molded, the plastic,
the
liquid plastic, from about 7-8 years ago. Those kind of accessories.
But I love.
From a stylist perspective, what do you guys think of the kind of mix of the collection and the casting with this? Because he has been quite known for kind of using women that almost feel a bit hard-edged at times to kind of offset when you have, you know, whether it's the sort of bandage dresses or the, you know, the sort of more frou-frou bits of it. What do you think of that?
It's nice.
I love the casting, you know, especially, you know, I like it that he used not very tall model, which is, personally, I just went and then I just speaking to myself that, my sister can walk to the show, you know, because she's not tall, and then, I mean, but like the Oriental, like this one, that she's not really tall, and then I was surprised because before the model has to be tall and like super perfect, you know what I mean? Like, but this is like he used more like, but not the normal, but like ordinary, but with a strong face and you know, like Yeah,
everyone's got really strong cheekbones. There is a slight element of androgyny to them in that old school way of using
Make it
words,
contrast with the...
and I think they all look really, they look like strong women who know what they want, and that's what he wanted to exude through the collection. So you pair them with your English garden floral print across your dresses, you then have that contrast.
Yeah,
it's really cute.
So you have that strong British woman about to enter Brexit, and
she is taking Brexit by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what that looks
She's
like.
She's striding into
Yes, exactly. I think he needs to make some more for men as well. Yeah.
I think the casting's nice, but like I don't think there's anyone plus size in this whole lineup. As I've seen tattoos, I think that's cool. I think she's great.
No makeup, and
I think it's very like, you know, like it's touching on, this idea of like the modern woman and like the strong woman and all this stuff, but there is no one plus size in this, I don't think. I don't know if we've
Do you think that's a necessity to having a show?
I think it's problematic. I think today, it's 2019, you can't just have like one size of model on the runway. Like, I think it's alienating a massive audience, and I think you have a moral obligation, anyone with a platform, whether you're a designer or whatever, to show some level of variation in the size of your models, not just have, like, literally every single person is the exact same shape, really, from what we can see.
But then when it comes to a production point of view, are you going to be the person that's grading it from the size 6 to the size 26? Or I agree, and I think things should be opened up, but I also that certain designers, everybody can't tick every single box, because then I think everybody's then just painting by numbers, and we've seen over the last few years on the model debate where a lot of designers have started using black models, where numerous houses would never use black models before. And so now, because the industry is starting to change and because Black lives matter, or seemingly people are starting to take awareness of it, so you're seeing the inclusion of other races throughout, but I don't know if it's possible for every designer to be able to tick every single box.
I think no, maybe because, you know,
I agree they've got to take a responsibility, but I just don't.
He went to school a long time ago, so obviously, like, you're learning on mannequins that, like, this is the size we are designing for, which is great, but it's also, like, you know, you're a very seasoned designer. You clearly know exactly how to make clothes. Like, why aren't, like, is it not crossing your mind to maybe think, like, you know, like, I've thought of this amazing shape. This would look amazing on a curvy girl. Maybe they're designing 5 or 6 looks for someone who has got a little bit more body, and then, you know, those samples will be in a bigger size, aka we'll have more of a variation of the modern woman on the runway.
You know,
the modern woman is, to me, like, strong, beautiful, obviously not tall, but, like, you know, pretty tall, but skinny. And I think, they all look amazing, it's powerful, but also, I know I'm a size 8, and I can, like, relate
14.
to this shape, but I don't know, like, my mum might look at this and be like, oh my God, I love that, but, like, oh, it only looks good on her. That's exactly what my mum would say.
Huh? Did your mum like Christopher Kane?
My mum don't know who anyone is, but she's like, maybe in Westwood. That's
That's what you think. She's probably wanting
Valid
to
point.
The archive.
Do you know, I think that's a really interesting question though, because I think 10 years ago, I was casting 10 years ago, it was just kind of a given that modelling was just for people of a certain size, of a certain height, and that's just the way it was. And it was a kind of, well, not everybody can do every job, so therefore that's a model's job. And I think it's really interesting now how actually just that kind of pushing the boundaries of questioning, well, why do we always accept that? Why should that be the rule? Is that a rule that kind of makes sense? Actually, is that a rule that kind of represses a lot of people? So it's interesting to be asking those questions right now, because we are in a slightly tricky time where I think there is also the other debate, though, about designers therefore going the other way and just doing it by numbers.
I'm just doing it for the sake of it because it's trendy. Everyone's sustainable this season because everyone's aware that we shouldn't be drinking out of plastic bottles, so everyone's jumping on that. But how many big houses are actually investing in making that actually...
It's not everyone that can do it, you know, like 100%.
Yeah. No, completely.
They just say it, but they didn't even... maybe 10% of that, but they just want to be part of it. They just want, like, consumer client to accept it, that they are part of it, which is for me, I prefer honest. I mean, if you're not using like sustainable fabric or
own it,
so just don't do it.
But then also,
but if you are, just I
feel like it's a situation where as well, like, see, I have plenty of friends who are plus size models who do get casted for, you know, runways and stuff like that. It's just more so, I feel like when you go to those houses which have existed for a long time and they've been doing the same thing for it's like a tiger can never change its stripes type of thing. I feel like in their mind it's not at the forefront to be trying to project this image of inclusion because it's already naturally happening around them, if that makes sense. Also, like, you know, with like what Rihanna did with Fenty, her lingerie collection, and even Nike, like a friend of mine who's plus size models for Nike and stuff like that, and Nike is a sportswear brand, and that's including, you know, plus size.
Nike's a hilarious example because Nike actually, you know, barely any of its clothes. You know, and in fact, I mean, Nike drives me a bit mad in this respect because Nike, what they call plus size, is like an American. You know, it's not plus size. It's like the American average, or actually way below the American average. So I'm not saying. I mean, you know, I don't want to be dissing Nike too much here because it's good. There is some representation there, and that's a good way. It's just there's a lot of stuff where it's quite surface level, I feel.
I don't think it needs to be like woo inclusion. Like, I don't think he needs to turn into like gypsy sport and have a whole moment of like, we're being political, we're trying to be inclusive, whatever. I just think, like, you know, he's left caring and now he's out on his own and he doesn't have to make any huge statements. But also from a commercial level, like, isn't the average dress size in the UK like a 12? It's like, even if you look at it from a purely commercial aspect, if you start thinking about, you know, the modern woman and the modern woman being like, you know, a little bit bigger than a size 8, then maybe start designing some of the collection for these curvier women, and then you're gonna have like, numbers are gonna go up.
But do you not think that some curvier women could wear some of those pieces though? Or you're saying,
of course,
ideally, that he should include them in his lineup?
Yeah, I think he should be included in his lineup because I think it's just, you're just seeing the same, like, that's the same shape every single person coming down the runway. Like, if you just made 3 of those pieces.
Not that one.
Like,
because ultimately some of those pieces
they would look great, but they're not on a bigger woman.
In the ultimate collection, you'd hope that some would look better on bigger women than skinny women. You would hope.
It's look good on me.
In a good kind of real world.
I have confidence.
Chris, I'm here.
It's look good on me. You know, for me, I don't think size matter at all. For me, like, of course, like some of the clothes that maybe it's good with like skinny, like body conscious or something, but I don't think size is. I would wear anything that I like.
Yeah. So you don't feel like you have to look at something and kind of see a mirror image for you to be able to sort of imagine yourself in it?
Yeah, but I mean, if I like something, I mean,
because I think there is something in that. I think there is something in that idea that actually you can kind of transpose yourself into something without it having to, the model look exactly like you.
But some representation.
It would just look like me on me.
You feel included in the conversation.
I think he's great. I think he's catering for the modern woman, but I think, you know, like, the modern woman, you know, 7 years ago was this, and I think that's great casting-wise. It was this, but now it's like, you know, it's 2019. The modern woman is a little bit more than this. You could take it further. And I think, you know, financially, like it would add a lot to his brand.
I think that's a massive important point that you've just made about financially, about on the bottom line. A lot of these massive fashion houses are totally missing out on the fact that you have women with money and spending power that also want to feel empowered by what they're wearing, and they're not really being serviced by the fashion industry right now, which is pretty appalling. You know, if we're talking about kind of equal rights for women, actually making stuff that they can wear.
It's very short-sighted.
It's a good way to start,
Like I know so many of my friends who are plus-size models who would look absolutely amazing in pretty much everything on this runway. Like, if you just made the sample a little bit bigger and cast those kind of women, I think it'd make people sit at a show and be like, damn, Christopher Kane, like you're actually catering for the modern woman. Like there's every representation of women on this.
Betsy, you know, like the singer, Betsy, is always his muse. And, you know, like she's went to the Met Gala wearing Christopher Kane all the time, you know, like she's...
Plus size.
Same size.
I mean, as a talking point, I feel like it's definitely something which designers in general can look forward to. But for this moment in time, I feel like it's happened. The show's happened already. It's all well and good talking about it, and there should be that level of inclusion. But then also, you can look at those pieces, and there are still things that, you know, I know for a fact, like I know some beautifully like plus size women that could definitely just go into a store and pick up some of these things, and I know that they would like look great with them. But I don't necessarily know if I need to see them on the runway in order to see that. I
know, but we're all creatives, and again, like, you know, she wore like to the Met Gala like a Christopher Kane custom dress, whatever. That's amazing, but you know, that's because there was a stylist there that could see the potential. Like we're creative minds, so we look at this and go, that would look amazing on this person, that person, whatever. But like, you know, average person, like I don't know, like some wealthy woman that lives in Portsmouth, I don't really know where this is going, but she wouldn't, you know, she might need to see someone on the runway with this, you know, she's represented by.
That's a size 14.
And be like, oh damn, who's this brand? This is lit, I could wear this. Some people need that. Like I know my mom, she's like 52, she needs to see like the whole thing, like to understand. Like, I can't just be like, Mum, this is going to look great. She's like, she needs to know.
That's a really interesting conversation to have about kind of what happens with the e-commerce site and the services and the styling services and the consultations and the sort of, you know, tele services that we're going to start coming in about helping people understand. Because, it's, you know, it's that old thing about a lot of brands would never really conceive that actually their customers don't wear their brand head to toe. You know, they will mix and match it with other brands because that's the way most people dress. So I think we'll start to see a lot more of that as well, and people kind of talking about how you style it in that way.
But then also economically, it makes sense to mix and match, you know. Like head to toe Christopher Kane, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to blow the bank out just like that, you know. But like, I feel like it's an imperative part. Also, I feel like that's part of people's identity, being able to pick out a piece and then take it and make it their own. It's also that kind of independent relationship that they have with designers, you know.
I think he's done that though. It's very like, I mean, one perspective could be like, this is a mess, like there's no story here, but then the other perspective I'm seeing, like there are so many pieces that people can pull out of this and be like, ooh,
what do the accessories fiends here, what do you think of the accessories?
They're all right.
I usually love his shoes, but I'm not blown away by his shoes this season.
I think the bags are great. Some of the shoes remind me of those.
The earrings are great.
Those Givenchy and Prada trainers from about a year or two ago. But yeah, I think those bags and the other neon ones are pretty sick.
Yeah, these bags, this shape is very similar to like the Dior bag that's floating about at the moment.
It's like Tide Pods though. Do you know what I mean?
Did we manage to find out what the name of the show was, by any chance?
It'll be on the London Fashion Week website.
Okay.
Maybe still thinking about it.
Maybe. Maybe that's part of the thing.
He's waiting to watch this and see what we say about it. We should go to the audience now as well, because we have for the first time a live audience. Does anybody have any questions for the panel?
Hello?
Audience. I do have a question, but it's not about Christopher Kane.
I mean, go in.
Today, the news was released that Elliott is leaving Vetements.
Okay, yeah.
And in the beginning, I liked his collection.
I don't know.
Yeah, the designer from Vetements.
Yeah, I know.
And in the beginning, I liked his first collection, but after time it just got a little repetitive, so I just want to know what you think about it.
He said from the get-go he wasn't going to do Vetmont for very long. He said from the get-go, like, I think he found the whole thing hilarious, that he was selling these clothes, like, back to all these rich people. And then, you know, he did the couture collection, and it was like, he had like a homeless guy and stuff. I was like, he's laughing in the wings. Like, I think he finds it hilarious. But I can't remember what the article was, but he said, like, yeah, I'm never going to do this forever. I'm going to do it for a few years, and then I'm out. He always said that, so I'm not surprised at all. I was kind of waiting for him to be like, is he still at Balenciaga?
But it's lost its popularity. As a brand, it's lost its popularity anyway. So if you're going to exit, now would be the time to like cash in.
It's a good time to just leave and then leave it as the still an icon.
I don't have an opinion on it, just because it's Vetmont. I don't know. It's nothing special to me. I don't know.
I loved it back in the day. Like his first 3 collections, I was excited about it. But I mean, I was like 16, I think. 16 or 17 when Vetmont came out.
For me, it was always Emperor's New Clothes, and maybe it was intentional that it was always meant to be that. But so if he was having a last laugh, then big up to him. But in reality, it was a lot of fake crap that people bought into, overpriced nonsense.
I felt the same.
Overpriced nonsense is exactly how I would describe it.
I felt like it was almost like watching a piece of performance art. It's a bit like when you're watching like Joaquin Phoenix or Shia LaBeouf or something, on a TV show, and actually you're a bit like, is this real or is this actually just kind of
very that? But I love that.
If he was playing with that, then that's good.
And I think it was good at the time, because I think sometimes that sort of shaking the industry up from the inertia, it's valuable for that, but it has a shelf life, and he knew it, and we all probably felt similar about it. So yeah, it seems it's run its course, which is logical.
Yeah.
Has that answered your question?
You wanted one answer.
Yeah. Are you sad that he's left?
No, I didn't. Like you said, the first couple collections were like fine. After the time, I just got repetitive. It was like always the same t-shirt with a different logo.
Yeah. So I hated that stuff, but I loved all of his shapes, like the Eastern European, like post-Soviet moment. Like that was my first ticket into seeing that kind of Eastern European post-Soviet trend coming through into the mainstream fashion world. So I don't know, when he did the aprons and the little babushkas, I was gagged. But now it's just cash cow.
Yeah, there was a certain unlocking of a door to other worlds that before, because we're so, for a long time, even though that globalization with the digital era, it's still been the kind of 4 big fashion cities, and I think there was something really interesting there about talking about actually let's look way beyond to much more far-flung places, these huge economies, incredible creatives. There was something really good about that.
Because it was illegal to have Levi's, and then he's doing Levi's, and I'm like, that's amazing, with a babushka and an apron, and then the oversized blazers, because none of them had well-fitting clothes. I love all of that. I think it's great, but it's died. It died.
Put to bed.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P.
Do we have a Kane question? No. Yeah.
Say Christopher Kane left the brand, is there anyone you'd find interesting to replace him?
I don't think it could be. If Christopher left the brand, is there anyone that you feel would be interesting?
I don't think it would be Christopher Kane then. That's the whole point, is it not?
I would want to.
I mean, it's really weird, because...
What did you say?
So, if Christopher left the brand, is there anyone that
Tammy, of course.
Of course,
There's your answer.
Tammy.
But, yeah.
I have a question. With the ever-changing fashion landscape, from a creative director, stylist perspective, what do you think Christopher needs to do to find that balance between serving his commercial clients and having that creative, cutting-edge appeal?
Do you know what? It's not just specific to him. It's specific to it can apply to everybody. I feel like a lot of people forget to actually have fun in what they're doing, and I feel like if in my everyday to-day life, if I didn't have fun within my job, I would not be doing it. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like it applies to this type of industry massively. If you're doing a collection and it doesn't inspire you somewhat, I feel like just that element of fun and happiness that it has to be in it. Even if you're looking at some seriously dark stuff, even still, when you're doing the work, there should be an element of the work that pleases you when something comes together and stuff like that. And just that application of happiness and satisfaction within your own work. And if you're reaching a point where like you're doing your work and you're never satisfied, are you doing the right thing? Like, you know?
That translates into like dollars though, like on the commercial side, because I think there's like tons of really great designers that do exactly what they love, but it doesn't really pay their bills, you know?
Yeah,
so like,
it's funny though, because I think maybe there's a bit of a myth. It's this idea that commercial is dull because it's almost a little bit offensive to your audience in some ways. That idea that what people will want to buy. I mean, yeah, there are some stuff that's like showstoppers that maybe, you know, unless you're Rihanna, you're not going to wear. But I think sometimes kind of giving a bit more credit that actually people will wear quite wild stuff. Not everywhere. I mean, you know, if you're in London or New York or San Francisco or something, maybe more so. But that kind of belief, that faith in your audience sometimes, that people like to really style it up.
I think it's changing.
Sometimes they're looking to you to style it up. So the idea that, you know, you have to, the commercial means you're going to get more pedestrian, you're going to get more sedate. I think maybe that can sometimes be the death knell for a really good, promising designer. I don't know if you guys agree, but...
Yeah, I think it is changing. I think, you know, like throughout the generations and especially throughout like feminism and all the different waves of that, like we are getting so much more daring, like with our fashion choice. I know exactly the little corner of, you know, my world that I exist in creatively and like my friendship group and everything, like everyone goes absolutely crazy, but even that has changed over the past like 3 years. Like I've gone from like, you know, like my guy best friends going out in like skinny jeans and just like a mesh top to now they go out in mini skirts and high heels because we've just all become so confident and comfortable that we just go in. I mean, I wouldn't have worn this 3 years ago. I probably would have been like, ooh.
Would you not, maybe this question might not apply, but because it's not even might sound patronising, but you're quite young. How old are you? How old
23.
So you're 23, so you're still in that early transitional phase where so much kind of develops and goes, and then so many people would love to wear these things, which they can, but 90% of the planet does kind of, if not 98% of the planet does like standardized jobs. So therefore, even being exposed to this stuff, they don't even get to see these kind of things. So we live in our own like fashion bubble, which means that we can be who we are, and people might look a little bit at us on the train, but at the end of the day, they couldn't go to PwC or any of these other places and rock up wearing that biker jacket and that skirt because they'd be walking out the door with their plant pot in their hand.
Yeah. But there are also, and I totally agree with that, but there are also a lot of people that want to go out on a Saturday night and actually in particular parts of the country specifically where it's like actually they'll want the dress or they'll want the top and actually they want to wear something different every Saturday night. So whether it's this or a knockoff of it, but I think there is that appetite sometimes to go a bit more. And also I think, you know, to your point about people, there are many different ways now. It's like many different ways to be sexy. I mean, I was reading this morning about the big dress energy in the Times, which was really interesting, talking about this idea of like literally women kind of what would have been kind of looked at as maternity dresses, wearing these huge dresses that are almost like, you know, whether it's Molly Goddard or even Givenchy, you know, these huge dresses because it's almost that idea of women taking up space, which they weren't allowed to before. So there's a lot of interesting kind of shifts in terms of what we deem.
Like, the more people are braver, the braver people will be. Like, the bolder fashion choices more people make has a knock-on effect on how other people dress. And I think as well, like, you know, we look at Charles Jeffrey or Vivienne Westwood, these, you know, like, Charles is still very new to the industry, but, you know, he's doing well because, you know, his shows are crazy, but he has these accessible pieces that are stocked everywhere and that has that commercial viability, whereas the same with Vivienne Westwood, like she has all these crazy designs, her casting's really out there, and then, you know, she's probably making all her money on purses, but we want to buy her purse because we're into her world when we see that show and we see her layering and all of this other stuff. Like, I think there's a way of having that balance of like having your commercial staples that, you know, you're going to get, all the buyers are going to be placing units on, but then also like having these pieces that transport you to a world that's like independent to your branding, your creative direction as a designer.
I think if we were more high tech, more kind of Minority Report, we could probably even take this collection and like pull different bits out and actually go look at the shoes that are almost a bit like, you know, not the sliders, but like the sandals, you know, the totally fat sandals. Even that skirt, you know, you can see that kind of being copied by a lot of high street.
Easily.
So I think if we took a lot of these pieces out.
H&M's already got in production, let's be honest.
No, but I think nowadays people like, especially like some certain brand, people they're keen on to buy runway pieces than the commercial pieces. You know, like for example, like I went to some store, and then I want this dress, and they say like it's sold out straight away because they runway piece. Yeah. And then you want a commercial piece? I say no, I don't. I want the runway piece. I want the whole image of the. Yeah.
But then I feel like you're an anomaly. You're one of those people that want to be in the street and want to stand out. Some people are honestly just there. They're culture vultures. They want the brand. They want to slap it on their body. They want to show an image.
But why is sold out? Because it means like there's other people like me.
Whereas, there are.
The showpieces, they probably only made 4 of them anyway.
Yeah,
so
yeah, of course.
It's good for them to tell you that it's sold out because they only had one in that store anyway.
Yeah, of course I know that they didn't make a lot, but.
You want them to make another one? I get it.
So would it be good to say that basically trust that your audience wants more? The more information that you give them through your designs and the more access that they have to different perspectives, just trust that people essentially want to be enlightened?
In the sense that you need to give them more because they want more, or as in to follow the audience, or
as in have faith in them coming back?
Give them all of yourself as a designer and allow them to choose what fits into their lives.
I mean, I feel like, the thing is, even as a person, it's always hard to give somebody all of yourself. So as a designer, as a creative, it's like there's so many boxes you have to tick. So in order to bear all, I'm sure everyone would love to do that, but then there's requirements you've got to fill. And there's brackets and there's margins. There's the people that are going to be offended. There's the people that are going to love it. They're going to hate it. Like watching the show, for example, loads of designers now, they have the comment section of their live feed off. That's because, they're apprehensive about how people are going to react to their stuff. And that's a part of them trying to bear their all, and they're not able to do exactly that.
That's sad though.
Yeah.
So I think the whole point, why people, like a lot of my friends are designers, like the reason people design or create style, everything is, to, create without fear. And, that's what's so hard, in any art form, especially to be a fashion designer, is that, you're bearing your all, and what is your craft is ultimately, translated at some point in your career into commercial value. And once you're in that train, it's amazing. Obviously, you're making money, you're doing what you love, but having that level of like censorship around you, especially like when he had all these, like he's got stock people to please, and now he doesn't have that, but he's still like, oh my god, like I can't. Who knows what's going through his head? Maybe he wants to send friggin' sculptures down the runway, but he can't, because it gets to a point where you're.
But also, we've also got to feel that may not be him. We might all want to see that showmanship, but that's also not for everyone. So everyone's not Damien Hirst or Anthony Gormley.
Yeah, maybe 12 years on from the original show, he's a different person.
Yeah, so there's that point where as you kind of evolve and move forward, actually, I love making dresses. I don't need to see a sculpture or a fridge walking down my catwalk to prove.
Not for Christopher.
I just think.
The other thing I was just going to mention on that as well is that it's interesting to think about the way that designers work. Is that a lot of them, whether it's McQueen and Katie England, is that there is that kind of sounding board, I think, as well, where you'll almost get that, someone sort of seconding you, saying, well, actually, but I think we need something like that, and so it's not quite as, they don't work in isolation as much.
It's all part of a collective.
As you would think.
You've always got a team behind you. As much as it will look like it's your decision, it ain't all your decision.
McQueen was destroyed by it. Like McQueen was like just ripping up dresses and having the time of his life, and then where did he go? He went to like Gucci or YSL or wherever he went in Paris, and then got bought out, and then he just became this thing, and it made him not okay because it became so far away from why it originally started making clothes.
On that note, I think we probably need to stop talking. I'm just going to ask you all for a very quick one-liner, your thoughts on the show, your final thought on it.
I love.
You love it?
One word, I love. I always love. Of course, but this collection may be a little bit less than the last one, but I still love what he's doing. I still love the way he using all the fabric, material, the design, the inspiration, and I follow his the personal Instagram. It's very inspiring, the way he living and things, and the dogs, and of course,
Betsy?
I think technically the collection was really nice. I think it's nice. It's a really nice collection. I think he did a good job. I really like the shapes. but I mean, it didn't transport me. Maybe that's because we're not there, we're not hearing the music, like we're not having that show experience, but it didn't take me to a different place. But I do think it's a really nice collection. I do think he's really talented, and you can just tell everything's really well made, and it will do well, but I'm not blown away.
Harris?
I think the collection was very true to who Christopher is. I think the play with materials between the PVC and the leather, and the prints that he used, and what I really loved throughout the collection was the volume on the dresses, because quite often he's known for much more of a slimmer silhouette, so the volume and the movement, that we obviously didn't see the movement. When those dresses would have been walking down, there would have been tons of movement, and I think that being able to see that would have given us a slightly different impression, because the way something moves as opposed to it being static was very different. So definitely thumbs up for me. I think it was strong.
Cool. Sona?
I would say, having watched the show, like it was incredible, but there's also still masses of potential behind it. And I'm excited to see what he does next season. I'm excited to see what is to come, because this time round I was left a bit underwhelmed. But,
And I think it needs like a second or a third watch, which you always do with Christopher Kane. So thank you to all our panellists. Thank you for watching, everybody. For more extensive Fashion Week coverage, be sure to visit SHOWstudio.com. And if you're watching via Show Studio's YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe below. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye.